I'm Ailsa Wonnacott and I'm the Executive Director of the ACL. So, I'm kind of here to tell the story of the ACL in 2021, and I'm going to share some of our progress in this past year. And I want to start by acknowledging and thanking the ACL board for the governance and for really moving the ACL forward. So our work is about building inclusive communities, and our goal is to enhance the lives of people with intellectual and developmental disabilities. And we have many ways we do that, but advocacy training and support is how we generally think about the work that we do. The ACL is a whole team. As we look around and we watch what's happened with other organizations, we see that they are losing their team members. ACL has not lost a single team member during COVID. We've remained intact and supportive of each other, and I really want to just thank the ACL team for holding steady through the most difficult of times. And not just holding steady, but you have advocated for people to be prioritized for treatment under COVID conditions. You've advocated for people to be prioritized for vaccines. You created and ran COVID vaccine clinics in partnership with Boulder County Public Health and Imagine. You created all the materials to make that chaotic Boulder County fairground process doable for people who had not left their home in some cases for many months. But COVID created chaos and isolation for people with intellectual and developmental disabilities, their families, and the people who work with them. We've also become adept at remote working. We were meeting people where they were, meant a lot of time spent in cars driving around, and we have learned to provide successful, effective advocacy remotely. Obviously, there are times when remote advocacy cannot make the change that we need, and we do address crisis situations through some in-person work. But as we think about launching into the future and, bringing everybody with us, we made a commitment early on in terms of technology that we would cross the digital divide with the people that we served. And that led to making sure people had devices, training people to use Zoom, problem solving and still problem solving with people around technology to avoid one of the greatest denials of community, which is denial of the online community. It's not assistive technology. This is how we do community these days. And speaking of community, one of the places that the ACL board and staff have really come together really well is around community outreach. We're all members of this community and we all communicate very closely with each other. And together with the team, we created At Home, which is a monthly, I like to think of it as a variety show, and it's a lot of fun. The other thing that the team has been working on is networking and support groups. We already had some of these groups going and many of them were in person. And not only have we continued those support groups, but we've expanded. The parent network work groups have expanded, our writing groups have expanded, our self-advocacy groups have expanded, our social and fun stuff like At Home has expanded. And one of the things that we found is that in connecting people with each other, that they're able to actually provide mutual support, that ACL is not the only source of support, that support can be found within your community and that we will help you create that community. The other place where the team has made enormous inroads is in creating a safety net and some crisis support for people with intellectual and developmental disabilities. It's tragic when people fall through the safety net because it's meant to be there for everybody. But it wasn't there for people with intellectual and developmental disabilities. But through a partnership with Boulder County, we were able to advocate for a crisis support person, a position at Imagine, as well as the creation of the, let me think if I can get this, the IDDEFRT, which stands for Intellectual Developmental Disabilities Emergency Funding Review Team. This is a team of people, including the ACL, Imagine in the county, who can problem solve around crisis. and can also access some of the DD mill levy funds to help people out of a crisis situation. The other place that we've seen some major inroads with the work that the team have done is in the justice system. There is a disproportionate number of people with intellectual and developmental disabilities who have been incarcerated. The reasons for this are very complicated, but we have been able to make a great deal of progress in helping people resettle in the community. This used to be difficult work. Just bringing our partners to the table to have the conversations was difficult. But we're pleased to say that now we do not need to be in the middle of the problem solving for everybody who's seeking a way out of jail, that the jail system and the community support system are now directly in communication. They reach out to us when they need assistance, but they are now a closed loop that does not require intensive advocacy in order to create justice in the lives of people with IDD. The other place where we're really pleased to have seen a lot of progress is system accountability and accessibility and responsiveness. Until very recently, we heard that it was very difficult for people to access the intellectual developmental disability system, that when they did, it wasn't very responsive to their needs, and that when things went wrong, there was no accountability. But we have been able to bring the system to greater levels of accountability through close collaboration with the state of Colorado. We've been able to improve accessibility through close collaboration with the county and Imagine. And we've been able to improve responsiveness through partnering with many community agencies. Our work isn't done here because the system is still in crisis with a lack of workforce and some real structural problems that we are continuing to partner in order to resolve. The other thing that we're very proud of is our training program. It has evolved from the individual systems and policy advocacy that we do, and it's a new and expanding way to create change, one professional heart at a time, because a lot of our work is training professionals so that they are working in a culturally appropriate way with people with intellectual and developmental disabilities. But the Changing Hearts has already started and it's continuing. Planning for the future. And planning for the future is a lot about the people. And one of the things that we need to step forward to is a deeper understanding of something that we call JEDI at the ACL, but it stands for Justice, Equity, Diversity, and Inclusion. And we have to deepen our understanding because as a human rights organization, we focused on a single issue of intellectual and developmental disability, but we've become very much aware of the intersectionality. There are many, many intersections of power that are at play in our lives, and this isn't an exhaustive list. It's not possible to list all the different ways that people experience oppression. The ACL has 3 Boulder County trained cultural brokers. They're people who speak several languages and are members of several different cultures, and they bridge the gaps that still exist around the many different cultures that we serve. These are things that point to our future. These are things that we need to carry forward, along with our deep understanding of intellectual and developmental disability, is a greater understanding of other things that are part of the human condition. And this is our work.